With free agency just starting in the NBA, there's so much to talk about with trades, contracts, and rumors that I just had to make a video about it. From Dejounte Murray and Rudy Gobert to smaller signings, I'm going to break it all down in this video. What's going on, everyone? Thank you all for clicking on this video. If you enjoy, I would really appreciate it if you dropped a like and left a comment. Also, make sure to subscribe. Only 1% of you guys that watch my videos are subscribed. It takes less than 5 seconds and you can always change your mind. I'm spending all my time focusing on the quality of my videos now, so all your support really means the world. So starting off with the first trade that happened was Dejounte Murray getting traded to the Atlanta Hawks to play alongside Trae Young. This was probably the biggest trade we're going to see this offseason, along with Rudy Gobert of course, unless something crazy happens with Kevin Durant and all that, but I don't really expect anything. So getting right into it, I know there's a lot of people who call this a bad trade for the Hawks. They definitely had to overpay and give away a lot, but anytime you can get a chance to bring another star to your franchise when you believe you're in contention is a good trade. I personally don't think the Hawks are championship contenders. They're going to be good, but I still think they're a few pieces away. Dejounte Murray has blossomed into a great playmaker and elite defender, so hopefully for Atlanta this will help Trae Young with his defense, but he is known for having some of the worst in the league, his fault or not. On the Spurs side of things, I've heard some people be like, what the heck are you doing? But I actually think this trade made perfect sense. It's just the timing of it was weird. San Antonio basically had to make the decision that in the next 3 years they won't be able to win anything with Murray, so it was best to trade him for the most assets at peak value. The Spurs have basically told the world that they want to lose this season, and they will do everything in their power to do that. The crazy thing about this trade is all the unprotected picks going their way. It used to be rare in the NBA to see unprotected picks get passed around, but now it almost seems like a weekly occasion. History shows in trades, the team that gives up a lot of picks usually ends up getting haunted in the long run. Just look at the Lakers, for example. Fortunately for them, they were able to get a championship in the bubble. If they didn't get that, it would have been a total fail. Now the Spurs basically have a ton of cap space that they're not going to use right now, and a bunch of first round picks that they're going to take their chances in the lottery with. Rumor also has it that this next draft class may have another once-in-a-generation type of player, but this is really the first time in the last decade that the Spurs have been trying to lose games. The Hawks now have their best chance to make a run to the NBA Finals, but it will still be interesting to see what they decide to do with John Collins because they still have holes that they need to fill. Next, moving on to another blockbuster trade that happened is of course Rudy Gobert being traded to the Timberwolves. Let me just say, Utah got an absolute haul. It's so weird seeing this trade actually go down because 2 years ago it felt like Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert were gonna play together their whole careers. But in today's NBA, that just doesn't happen anymore. This trade was so huge because the Minnesota Timberwolves literally gave away all their depth and their whole future just to get a regular season player that hasn't proven himself in the postseason. Yes, Gobert is probably the best defensive center in the league, but now Minnesota is pretty much relying on Anthony Edwards to become a superstar to win anything. I'm not doubting his ability to do that, but it's a very big risk that they're taking. I don't know why the price for Gobert was so high. Maybe there was a bidding war, but getting 4 quality players and also 4 first round picks is an absolute steal for Utah. I also understand that Minnesota is a smaller market, so this trade makes sense for them because anytime you have an opportunity to get an all-star caliber player, you have to do it. It will be interesting to see if the Jazz decide to trade Mitchell later on in the season to enter a full rebuild, but they definitely now have the assets to build something special around him. Now moving on to the more smaller moves that happened, the first team I'm going to talk about of course is my favorite, the Cleveland Cavaliers. They were able to re-sign Ricky Rubio to a small 3-season, $18 million deal. I love this move because that is cheap money for a quality backup point guard. Regardless of the ACL tear or not, Rubio played a critical role in the Cavs' success last year, and they weren't the same without him. They also, as expected, gave Darius Garland a max rookie contract extension to keep him around for another 5 years. Garland had an amazing breakout season last year, and I only expect him to keep getting better, so I'm glad the Cavs were able to get this done. The Cavs also were able to pick up guard Raul Neto and center Robin Lopez to minimum deals to pretty much set the roster for 2023. The hope is that Neto can hold down the backup point guard spot and give some experience off the bench while they wait for Ricky Rubio to come back. Pretty much the only thing left for the Cavs to do is figure out what's going to happen with the Colin Sexton contract, and besides that, they are pretty much set for this next season. Next, I want to talk about the New Orleans Pelicans and their decision to give Zion Williamson the bag despite his injury history and other problems he's had off the court. I personally do like this decision because Zion still has the potential to be a once-in-a-generation type player. He had so much hype for a reason, and again, I think as a small market franchise, you cannot let that walk away under any circumstance. The Pelicans also now have a very solid roster to surround Zion with, and I could see them making a surprise playoff run in 2023. Now moving on to the Boston Celtics, they have made some very big and underrated moves so far in the offseason. The Malcolm Brogdon trade hasn't been talked about that much, but it's a way bigger trade than it seems. The Celtics now have so much depth at the guard and forward position that they should definitely be a better team than last year, which they made it to the finals. Brogdon had lots of injury trouble in his time with the Pacers, but if he can stay somewhat healthy, he will be a big part of what the Celtics do next year, similar to Derek White. Next, the Portland Trailblazers made a lot of noise so far in free agency, but the mistakes they made in their trades during the season are going to cost them a little bit. The Blazers don't have very good management, and they like to make a lot of dumb trades, and it's almost like they don't know what they want to do. They traded away key pieces that played around Damian Lillard for future prospects and picks, but they kept Dame, which didn't make much sense because it's either you rebuild or you don't. Portland so far has been able to trade for Jeremy Grant from the Pistons, although he wanted to come there anyways, and they extended Yusuf Nurkic for 4 more seasons. I still don't think they have what it takes to make the playoffs, so I feel like they are doing all of this for nothing, and then they will be stuck with a bad lottery pick instead of being in the top 3. They are going to be mediocre for a while purely because of the management. Moving on to the New York Knicks, another team that has no clue what they're doing, signed Jalen Brunson to a 4-year, $110 million deal. Brunson is not going to be their savior, and they probably won't make the playoffs. So like Portland, they are paying all these players money instead of building for the future. They did make the playoffs in 2021, so maybe they think they can get back to that, but they have so many chemistry and fit problems with this roster that I don't think they're going to be going anywhere this season. Maybe somehow Julius Randle can turn things back around, but everything will need to come together, and RJ Barrett will also need to blossom into an all-star. Finally, moving on to the last team I'm going to talk about for this video is the Chicago Bulls. They were able to extend Zach LaVine to a big deal, and they brought in Andre Drummond to be the backup center for next season. I was skeptical if LaVine was going to stay with Chicago, but since they got the deal done, they don't have to worry about that any longer. I'm personally not the biggest Andre Drummond fan. He's a lazy player, but I definitely do think the Bulls will be back in the playoffs next season. There's also been some smaller signings like Dante DiVincenzo to the Warriors, which was a steal for them, and many extensions that I didn't talk about, but I think I was able to cover most of what's happened so far in free agency. That's going to be the end of this video. Let me know in the comments below what I should make next. This video took a long time to plan out and make, so I would really appreciate all your support. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, I'll see you all later.